of February 2nd, 2014, and it was my brother's name on the phone. I knew that something was wrong. I picked it up, and on the other end, my brother said, "She's gone, Lindsay. Mom died this morning." It felt at that moment like all the air in the entire world was sucked away, and I tried to stumble out of the room where my sleeping 11-month-old was to not wake her, and looking just for anyone to be responsible so that I didn't have to be the responsible one. I don't really remember what happened the next couple days. I do remember trying to go to work, and that lasted until my coworker asked how my weekend was, and grief made me blunt, and she wasn't really expecting me to say that my mom died yesterday as I broke down sobbing. I was somewhat a new parent and was only realizing the sacrifices that my mom had made for me while growing up, and were only starting to come to terms and kind of heal the hurts that my angsty youth caused, the divides that were caused by that. So I really had a hard time knowing that someone that I loved and cared for died alone. There was no one with her. She died alone and scared, and I couldn't find the peace that I was looking for knowing that. So like any person my age, I took all my grief and my questions to the internet to see if maybe there was an answer, if maybe someone could tell me how to grieve the right way. And unfortunately, the internet doesn't tell you that, but it did show me an ad for a nonprofit group called No One Dies Alone. So I felt, in that moment, I felt really hopeful that maybe I could be there for someone in a way that I wasn't able to be there for my mom. So I signed up and I got information, and I went to the training, and I learned that the role of a NODA volunteer is simply to hold space. So it's a group of volunteers who sit and hold vigil by the bedside of those who otherwise would be dying by themselves. It's not really a job for anyone or for everyone, but I felt like it was a really authentic way for me to heal my own grief and carry the compassion that my mom had. So I signed up, and time came for us to sign up for our own on-call shift, and I signed up for the middle of the night appointments to kind of balance my busy life and wanting to help. And the first couple of days went by, and no one, our team wasn't activated. And then it was a Friday night, and team leader called and said, "Hey, we've been activated. There's someone who needs you to sit with them from 4 to 8 a.m. So I was like, okay, I can do this. I've been trained for this. I have done ministry before. I've sat with people dealing with really big, heavy emotions. I can do this. And so as the time got closer, I felt less and less prepared. Like maybe I made a mistake. Maybe this isn't actually what I should be doing. And they went over that in the training, and it was fine. If you didn't want to go, you didn't have to go. But I knew that someone was going to be sitting by themselves, and I couldn't bear knowing that. So I went. And the whole drive out, I just kept reminding myself that in this moment, being there is enough. Showing up, holding space is enough. That my humanity is enough in that moment for that person. And so I got to the assisted living home where she was staying and walked in the room, and it was the most peaceful room I've ever walked into. It was so calm, and I sat by her and held her hand and talked with her. She wasn't responsive to my talking, but when I wasn't holding her hand, she would start shaking again. So I would hold her hand, and I read, and I did know that she had some kids, so being a parent, I knew her hands had made countless sandwiches. If you're a parent, you know that you make food and snacks all the time. So we were sitting there, and I just was rubbing her hand and said, I'm sure you've made so many snacks through the years, your work here's done, the people that needed your care are safe. It's okay for you to move on. It's okay for you to move on. And I sat with her for about 2 hours, and as the sun started to come up, it was starting to get light in there, and her breathing slowed until eventually it stopped, and she had died peacefully. And I gathered my things, and I walked down to the front desk and let them know that she had passed, and that my job was done. It was time to go home. And I walked out, and on my drive back, I just remember thinking and reflecting on how peaceful death can be. And for the first time, I wasn't afraid of death. It was something that everyone experiences. You know, death isn't always a crisis. Sometimes people get to live to be old and in their 90s and die peacefully in their sleep. And, you know, I have this like new feeling of like the only thing I want to do is go be with my kids. Like right now I'm alive and I don't know how I'll die, I don't know when I'll die, but right now I'm here and I want to live that. So as I drove home, I reflected on that and just was really grateful for the experience and the healing that brought to me, in knowing that, you know, just being there, just showing up is often enough. Thank you.